If your drinking is causing problems in important areas of your life and you're still drinking, you might be wondering, am I an alcoholic? Now that's a frightening thought, but for many people, there's confusion about what is the difference between a problem drinker and somebody who becomes addicted to alcohol. So in this video, I'm going to share with you some guidelines that you can use to help you make a determination about whether you're a problem drinker or perhaps you're an alcoholic. And I'm also going to include some very helpful resources that you can use to help you address whatever problem that you have. Now is always the time to start making positive changes in your life. Dr. Donna Leigh Bliss here. In this channel, I promote optimal mental health and well-being so that you can become the best version of yourself. Please help me to grow this channel by clicking on the subscribe button. For most drinkers, alcohol is a social beverage that's enjoyable. But for others, alcohol use can become problematic. The challenge is it's difficult to determine the difference between being a problem drinker and an alcoholic. Contrary to popular opinion, being an alcoholic has nothing to do with how much you drink, how often you drink, whether you have blackouts. It has much more to do with whether your drinking is causing problems in important areas of your life and you still continue to drink, because that really speaks to whether your ability to control your drinking has been impaired to the point that you keep drinking despite negative consequences. The National Institute on Alcohol Abuse and Alcoholism defines heavy drinking for men as consuming more than 4 drinks on any day or more than 14 drinks per week. For women, it's consuming more than 3 drinks on any day and more than 7 drinks per week. But that raises a question: what is the difference between heavy drinking and being an alcoholic? According to the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, alcoholism is defined as drinking in larger amounts or over a longer period than intended, a persistent desire or one or more unsuccessful efforts to cut down or control drinking, and important social, occupational, and recreational activities are given up or reduced because of drinking. The essential issue in differentiating problem drinking from alcoholism is about the ability to control your drinking. So if your drinking is causing problems in important areas of your life, say work problems or health problems or relationship problems, and you stop drinking or you're able to cut back your drinking, then you're demonstrating having sufficient control over your alcohol use. And so more likely than not, you haven't crossed the line into alcoholism. But for somebody who is experiencing problems in important areas of their life and they still continue to drink, that is a hallmark of alcoholism, because a rational, sane person isn't going to continue to do a behavior that's causing so many problems. They'll just stop. But once you've crossed into the line of addiction that takes on a life of its own, people will continue to drink because they have to drink. They're driven by a physical addiction to drink, to avoid withdrawal symptoms and obsessive thoughts and cravings to use alcohol. And they'll continue to drink more and more and more despite negative consequences. So I've worked in the addictions field for over 30 years. And I work with lots of people with alcohol and drug problems, and I frequently talk to them about this guideline of looking at their drinking and the negative consequences from it, and then looking at whether they're still continuing to drink. And it's pretty easy to determine from talking to somebody when they're just a problem drinker who still needs to address their alcohol problem versus somebody who's crossed the line over into alcoholism and has really lost the ability to control their drinking, or it's so severely impaired that their drinking becomes increasingly risky. Another guideline to use in determining if you're an alcoholic comes from Alcoholics Anonymous, which states on pages 31 to 32 of its basic text, quote, "We do not like to pronounce any individual as alcoholic, but you can quickly diagnose yourself. Step over to the nearest bar room and try some controlled drinking. Try to drink and stop abruptly. Try it more than once. It will not take long for you to decide if you are honest with yourself about it. It may be worth a bad case of jitters if you get a full knowledge of your condition. So again, this is the whole notion of the ability to control your drinking. And so if you really lost that ability, then you can be pretty confident that you're no longer a problem drinker and that you've crossed that gray area. And the problem with alcoholism, it's a progressive illness that gets worse. It can be scary to look at your relationship with alcohol and wonder if you're an alcoholic. For many people, alcohol has been seen as their best friend. It's always there for them. It makes them feel better. It helps them to cope. And now the idea of letting go of such a trusted friend, even though its continued use is causing problems in your life, is very difficult to do. But yet this is exactly what most people are faced with when they're making a determination about whether they're a problem drinker and perhaps they can get their drinking under control versus being an alcoholic. So in my work as a clinical social worker, I work with many clients with alcohol problems. And they will come talking to me about they're having problems with being depressed or work problems, or they got a DUI, or they notice that their relationships are having difficulty because of their drinking. And so I'll talk with them a lot about how much they drink, how often they drink, the consequences of their drinking. But then I share with them these guidelines and help them to separate out whether they're more of a problem drinker or if they truly are an alcoholic. And I've found that when most people are able to be honest with themselves, it actually helps them to feel better. And so one of the interesting things is that I oftentimes work with people that I would categorize as problem drinkers. So the idea of having to give up alcohol might be very hard for them to do. I had one woman that her drinking would be really problematic sometimes, especially when she was around other people who were drinking. She would drink more than she planned to. She would get drunk. She would have blackouts. Now, fortunately, she didn't drink and drive, but she was very concerned about her blackouts. So we talked about her drinking, and it wasn't clear to me that she was an alcoholic, so we talked about what being a problem drinker entails and whether she thinks that she has the ability to control her drinking. And we worked on a plan to help her learn how to become what she wanted to be, which was an intentional drinker, which meant she wanted to enjoy her use of alcohol, but she wanted to plan what she was going to drink, how much, in what setting. And so she became very proactive with her drinking and became very successful in following her plan most of the time. And what was interesting is that she realized that if she was intentional about her drinking, she could exercise sufficient control so that she wasn't having negative consequences, such as having any more blackouts. And so that's really where the hope is when you start to see if you're a problem drinker. It gives you a pathway to start to deal with that use, to take some control and reduce your risk from drinking. So there are two resources that I will share with clients depending upon where they think they are in terms of being a problem drinker or an alcoholic. Moderation management is for people who are more problematic drinkers and realize they don't necessarily need to abstain from alcohol, but they need to learn how to control it better and moderate it. And so that approach can be very effective. But for those who have crossed the line into alcoholism where moderation really isn't feasible, then Alcoholics Anonymous that sees alcoholism as a disease that needs 100% abstinence can be a great resource as well. And so my experience working with clients is that I encourage them to check out both the websites so they can understand the resources that are available, and that helps them make a determination about whether those resources will be helpful for them. So determining whether you're an alcoholic or not really entails being honest with yourself about your relationship with alcohol. If your drinking is causing you problems in important areas of your life and you continue to drink, chances are really great that you've crossed the line into alcoholism, and any further drinking is going to become increasingly problematic. It's just not worth the risk. So I encourage you to check out the websites for Moderation Management and Alcoholics Anonymous. I've put the links in the description below. And I think you'll find that either one of those could be helpful for you depending upon where you see yourself in terms of either being a problem drinker or you do realize that you are an alcoholic and you need to get help. Because both of those resources have helped lots and lots of people. They've helped many of my clients, and I know they can help you. So I encourage you to check them out. Thank you for watching this video. I've listed some helpful resources that you might like in the description below. If you like this video, please click on the subscribe button. Finally, I've included links to other videos you might find helpful. Remember, now is always the time to take action to improve the quality of your life. I'll see you later.